Yeah, I've got the recording started, so it's welcome to Sue, who's taking the recording. So, okay, so we're going to focus on our hips today. Yeah, just working into getting a little bit more flexibility in our hips. I'm sort of reluctant to say the words hip openers now from something that I was reading on the weekend from a yoga therapist. And I mean, it's only somebody's opinion, I suppose, but she was saying all yoga teachers say this is a lovely hip opener, and we do say it. We do say this is a hip opener, and we think, something like this. Baddha Konasana, Supta Baddha Konasana is a hip opener. We shouldn't be thinking about opening the hips. It's much more complex than that because there's so many muscles that are running down the front of the body and the back of the body and the sides, the adductors, the abductors, the piriformis, the tensor fascia lata, the quads come up towards the hips and the hamstrings coming up towards the hips. There's all these things, and that's just talking about the lower body. So there's all of the muscles that come from the lower back as well that connect down towards the hips. And I've forgotten some of those names. They'll come to me in a minute. But basically, it's all about just getting your hips healthy. So I'm going to change my tune and say it's not hip openers, it's about stretching and relaxing those hip muscles and getting the hips healthy, because hips are so important. We think that, we've got stiff or tight hips, but if we don't get some flexibility into our hips, then there's a knock-on effect, typically into the lower back. So when people suffer with lower back problems, most of the time, it's not that you've overstrained your back, it's that your hips are not performing the way that they should. So your back is then overcompensating. So it makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? So my session today is focusing very much on trying to get some, I can't say opening, some nice flexibility into the hips, just some softness in that area, and some, so that you feel you've got a little bit of freedom there. So we're lying here in Supta Baddha Konasana. We've got the soles of our feet together. Most likely your lower back is arching up away from the mat. So just allow your hands to come alongside the mat in a gentle V, palms facing up. Relax the shoulders. So start by releasing the back of the head, the forehead. Make sure your nose is in line with your belly button. And allow the shoulders to just rest down into the mat. And then you can start to feel your way down your spine. So just taking a few breaths here. And with each exhalation, just imagine that you're gently placing your back down into the mat. So starting from the top towards the base of the skull, just allowing it to release little by little. And when it comes towards your lower back, without pressing it down, just see if you can allow it to just drop down. As if that spine is like a taut piece of elastic coming from the back of your sacrum where you're balancing on the back of the hips, and then all the way up into the back. So it feels like a taut piece of elastic at the moment, but I want you to just imagine that you're releasing it down and you're creating that little dip So if you're finding that hard to visualize, then you can roll a little bit through the back of the pelvis and forward. And usually just by doing that little movement and releasing, then the lower back will start to release. It's a bit harder in this position than when we're in semi-supine, because as our legs drop open to the side, we're creating that little bit of tension, that added bit with the inner groins, they're pulling the lower back up and away from the mat. But we want to start from a place of relaxation. The other thing to check in is maybe your heels are a little bit too close to your hips. So if you slide them away, then you will get a little bit more of a release. So we're here, excuse me, for two reasons. Firstly, we're just grounding, connecting to the mat, and we're going to do a little breathing practice in a minute. But secondly, I just want you to check out how your hips are feeling. Where are your knees releasing to? Is there a massive gap between the knees and the floor? Does the back feel quite tight? So just notice where we are before we start our practice. And just take a few deep breaths in. So in through the nose and out through the nose. We're going to do our three-part breath, a three-part yogic breath, or Dirga breath it's called, D-I-R-G-A. So you breathe in all the way to the base of the lungs. You can feel the belly popping out. And as you breathe out, release the spine, release the belly button drops towards the spine, and letting the air go. So send a few breaths all the way down to the bottom of the lungs. So it's pressing on the diaphragm, the tummy muscles pop out. And as you breathe out, releasing the diaphragm back up and laying the spine down on the mat, releasing the belly button to the back towards the spine. And that will help you to feel that your back is releasing as well. So once more to the bottom. And then release. And now on our next inhalation, we're going to focus on the sides of the ribs. You can take your hands just to the side ribs, have the thumbs underneath the body, so just wrapping around the ribs and going towards the floor, and the fingers are on the front of your lower ribs. So take a breath in. And this time feel that expansion in the rib cage. So the hands will move out to the side, and then breathe out and release. Once more, breathing in. Breathing out and releasing. So as we take this breath in, we're not ignoring the lower part of the lungs. So we're sending the breath there as well. But at the same time, we're thinking about that expansion to the side. And then we're releasing. So one more, breathing in. You might even feel your elbows sliding out a little bit wider as you do this. Last time into the ribs and the bottom of the lungs. In and out. And then, so the third section, slide your fingertips up to your collarbones. So your hands are just resting on the upper chest. Just notice here for a moment before we take the breath in, what's happened to your lower back? Has it rested and released down a little bit more? So breathe in. The breath goes all the way to the bottom of the lungs, the ribs expand to the side, and you feel a little lift in the top of the chest. And then breathing out, releasing from the bottom, from the ribs, from the chest. Full expansion of the lungs coming up to the clavicular area. So breathe in. And breathe out. This is the hardest place to get the breath directed. So don't worry if you're not feeling too much up there. It's just a good practice to do. Try it once more. And breathe out. And then allow your hands to just rest back on the mat, palms facing up. Just let your breath come back to normal. And just notice how everything is feeling. Maybe the back feels a little bit freer. The hips and the inner groin, so they feel a little bit more relaxed to where we started. So now taking your hands to the outside of your thighs, just gently bring your knees so that they're upright. And take your hands out in a T shape, palms facing down. So the knees are about hip distance apart, feet are hip distance apart. Take a breath in. And as you breathe out, just drop the knees over to the right. So just bringing in a little twist. Breathing in back to center. Breathe out, drop into the left. So we're rolling over the back of the hips, the back of the sacrum area, rolling from side to side. So just easing into this movement, a little bit like windscreen wipers, left and right. Just a few more times. So bringing in that twist into the side body. And then the next time you release to the right, just hold for a minute and turn your head to the left hand. So we're just taking a breath here. Breathing into the left side of the body, starting to find that length across the hips. And then breathing the knees and the head back to center. Breathing out, dropping the knees to the left, head to the right. Just take a breath here. And then breathing the head and the knees back to center. So have your feet hip distance apart, plant the feet into the ground and the heels are quite close to the hips. We can adjust that distance in a minute. So take a breath in and draw the right knee up and over the chest. So hug it in quite tight. And then take the right ankle and place it just below the left knee. So you're encouraging this right knee to drop out to the side. You'll start to feel that in the hip joint. Take your hands out wide once more, palms facing down. Taking a breath in. And as you breathe out, send the right foot towards the mat. If it doesn't reach the mat, don't worry. If you can get it so that the foot stamps down, that's a really nice stretch and release of the hip. Your gaze is to your right hand. So this is like a figure of 4 with your legs. Breathing in, come back to center. And then release the right foot back to the mat. So we're back in semi-supine. So for the other side, you're going to hug the left knee in and over the chest, first of all, just plugging it in tight, using your hands to draw it in, so you're really feeling the hip flexor here. And then release the leg, take the left ankle, place it just below the right knee. So the sole of the right foot is out to the side, hands back into the T shape, and then drop the left foot over to the right. Oh, you might get some clicks in your spine as you do that. I just did. And then turn to the left hand. You're making that figure of 4 with your legs. Oh, excuse me, losing my voice. Just hold in that position for a moment. Feeling that opening in the left side of the body and that stretch over the left hip. And then turn your head back to center, breathe your knees back up and release the left foot. So we're going to do a similar thing. So we're going to draw the right knee in and over the chest, release it, and place the right ankle below the left knee. And then slide your hands through, right hand goes through the space between the 2 legs, left hand goes behind the left thigh. So you're going to need to lift your head up to do this. So interlace the hands behind the thigh and then rest the head back down. So we're using our right elbow to encourage the right knee out to the side. So this pose is actually reclined pigeon pose, because there's an option to this pose which you can do if you feel that it's right for you. So take a breath in, and as you breathe out, extend the left leg up to the ceiling. So point the left toes away. So now imagine if we flipped our body over, we would be in pigeon pose with our knee out to the side, our leg out behind us, and our hands, well, they would be resting fingertips to the floor. We're just holding the back of the thigh here. So try and relax your shoulders down to Supta Kapottanasana. Point the left toes away. And then breathe in as you bend the left knee, plant the foot down on the mat. Breathe out and release the right knee. So just release your hands and just have a little roll left and right. Ease out across the back of the hips. And then come back to center. We're going to do the same on the other side. So draw the left knee in. Place the left ankle below the right knee. Lift your head as you slide your hands through, interlace the fingers. Rest the head back down. And just draw that right knee towards you and use the left elbow to press the left knee out to the side. And then the option to extend that right leg, if this feels good for you. Point away through the toes. Check where you're holding tension here. As you're pulling on that, the back of the thigh, check you're not creating tension in your shoulders. See if you can release them down. And then take a breath in. And release the right foot to the floor. Release the left. Back into semi-supine and just have a little roll. Side to side. on the hips. At the back of the hips, just releasing. And then you're going to bring your knees up close towards your chest. Another little roll here. Just holding at the backs of your thighs. And then start to roll along the mat. Take your time and roll all along the spine. And bring yourself up to a seated position with bent knees. So we're going to take our hands behind us. So the fingers are pointing back behind. If you turn them forward, you get a little bit more of a stretch into the shoulders, but we don't really need to do that now. So you can just have the fingertips pointing to the short end of the mat. And then your feet are about hip distance apart. So we're leaning back into the hands as we release the knees over to the right and then the left. So it's windscreen wipers, but it's slightly different because we're leaning back into this pose. So it feels slightly different. You're getting a little bit more movement into the core. So you're having to control the legs with your tummy muscles as you bring the legs back up. That's it. So come back to center and then sit yourself up a bit. And then we're going to release, turn to face you. We're going to release one leg down to the mat in front of us into 90-90. We come here. So the right knee is out in front of us as we release that leg to the floor. And then the left foot comes behind. So you're trying to make that almost like the Isle of Man flag, but only two legs. I know I say that joke every time we do this. So it's 90-90. So think about 90 degrees with your lower leg and your upper leg. And then once we've got that position, sit up, straight and tall. The hands are just fingertips to the mat. And you're going to breathe in as you bring the knees up, rolling over the back of the hips, and then drop the feet into 90-90 on the other side. So just really working into the hips. So use the hands to help you to keep the upper body in an almost upright position. So really rolling through the hips. Really nice movement for the hips. So we're sort of leaning back into our hands here. We're using our hands to help us. So we're going to add to this. So the next time you take your knees over to the right and you're in 90-90, you're going to take a breath in and you're going to press your feet and your knees into the mat and bring yourself up. So it's quite strong, and it's a strong stretch of the front of the hips, and then sit down. So try not to use your hands as you do this. Roll over to the other side, breathe in, breathe out, bring yourself back up. And then sit back down without the hands, roll over. So let's just do 2 more sets of this. You can feel how you've got to engage your core and your inner groins to bring yourself up. And then rolling over to the other side, bring yourself up. So 1 more set. I'm just going to have a quick look at you. That's it. Well done. 1 more set. Bit of a challenge, isn't it? But it's really, really good for our hips and for our core strength. Well done. So Yeah, we've done that. Strong bit. So, okay, so what we're going to do now is come back to our upright position with our feet in this 90-90. So what was I trying to say there? Oh yeah, I got it. This is a good one. So with our feet in this 90-90, we're just going to sort of adjust our feet a little bit so that the right sole of the foot touches the left knee, and then just encourage that left foot to come out a little bit further. And you're going to sit up straight and tall, take a breath in, reach the hands up. And as you breathe out, turn to the right and release the hands towards the mat. So breathing in, bringing them back to center, breathing out, releasing the hands. So we can stay like this, or if you want to add a little bit more, you breathe in, reach the hands. As you twist to the side, you're going to release the hands to the mat, and you're going to slide them out along the mat, releasing the chin and the chest all the way down to the mat. So you're releasing across that right hip. And if it feels good, you can turn and rest on your left cheek. So you're starting to get a nice stretch into the upper body as well. That's it. Reaching those hands out. And then breathing in as you walk your hands all the way back up. Come back to center. And we're going to flip to the other side. So just leaning back into your hands so that you can roll over. Just adjusting a little bit. So that now the right knee is cupped by the left foot. We've got this sort of 90-90 thing going on. Our right bum cheek is probably a little bit away from the mat. So try and draw yourself into this upright position. So you're encouraging it to stay towards the mat. And then take a breath in, reach the hands up. And as you breathe out, turn to the left, release the fingertips to the mat. So the fingertips are keeping you in an upright position. Breathing in, releasing back up alongside your head, come back to center, release the hands. So continue like that, or stretch on the other side, breathing in, reaching up, turn to the left, release the fingertips to the mat and slide out along the mat. Release your chin, your chest, your forehead, and turn and rest on your right cheek if that feels good. Getting a little bit more twist into the spine and all the way down to the hips. So this is interesting, isn't it? I found this on the weekend and I was looking through some, there was somebody called Yoga with Bird. She calls herself Bird. And I thought that was quite an interesting stretch. So slowly bring yourself back up. And come up to a seated position. So we're going to release our feet underneath us and come to all fours. So our hips should be feeling a little bit lubricated now. So we're just going to do a few hip movements. So from your all fours position, hands under the hips. No, hands are under your shoulders, knees are under your hips. Take a breath in. And as you breathe out, float your right knee out to the side. And then just make some circular movements with that right knee. So breathe in as you do this, gaze into the mat. And then holding that right knee to the side, keep your tummy muscles engaged, breathe in. As you breathe out, take the right knee to your left elbow. Breathe in. As you breathe out, bring the right knee to your right elbow. Take a breath. And then breathe out and extend the leg behind you. Just take a breath here. And then release the knee to the mat. So let's do the other side. Take a breath in. Engage the tummy muscles. As you breathe out, send the left knee out to the side. Draw some circles with that knee, really getting into the hip. And then breathe in, breathe out. Take the left knee to the right elbow. Breathe in, breathe out. Take the left knee to the left elbow. Breathe in, breathe out. Extend the leg out behind you. Breathe in and breathe out. Knee to the mat. So we're back in all fours. Let's get up and away from the mat. So toes into the mat. Take a breath in. As you breathe out, lift your knees and your hips. Come to downward facing dog. Have a little walk through the feet. Ease out here. Just send those hips up to the ceiling. And then allow the heels to rest towards the mat. Just take a breath here in your down dog. Breathe in. As you breathe out, release the knees to the mat, so keep them pointing forward. Release the tops of the feet and sit the hips back towards the heels. So it's child's pose, reaching the hands forward. So we're getting a nice stretch of the back. And then take a breath in, bring yourself back up to all fours, tuck the toes, breathe out, downward facing dog. Stretching through the hamstrings here, dropping the head through the arms, hips up to the ceiling. Breathe in, breathe out, release the knees to the mat so they're pointing forward. Release the tops of the feet, sink back. We're going to do 3 more of these with your breath. So breathing in, come into all fours, breathing out, downward facing dog. Breathing in, coming up onto your toes, releasing the knees to the mat. Try and flow between those 2 poses. Coming into child's. So you're using your hips as a hinge here. Breathing in, breathing out, downward facing dog. Last time, breathing in, breathing out, child's pose. Breathing in, breathing out, downward facing dog. And then breathing in as you walk your feet all the way to your hands. Come into Uttanasana, forward fold. And slowly, slowly bring yourself up. Well done. So we're just going to do a little flow. Hopefully everyone's feeling okay. Yeah, good. So stand up straight and tall towards the top of the mat. Take a breath in, so you take your hands out wide, reach up and overhead. Take your gaze to your palms. As you breathe out, bring the palms all the way down through the midline, down to the mat. Uttanasana, forward fold. Breathing in, take your hands to your shins. Half forward fold. Breathing out, release the hands to the mat, bend the knees, step the right leg back, step the left leg back, downward facing dog. Take a breath in here as you send your weight into your left foot, release the right leg up to the ceiling. Three-legged dog. Breathing in, draw the right knee up towards your chest, come up onto your left toes, step the right foot forward and through. You're in a lunge position. So drop the left heel down to the mat if you feel you need to, so 45 degrees. Otherwise, we're going to come up to crescent pose. So it's a little bit of a balance. It's your choice. If you're on your toes, it's a little bit harder. Take a breath in as you engage that right hip. Sweep the hands forward. Just following that space between your hands as you lift up into crescent pose, maybe even a little back bend. Keeping that right knee bent, left leg is towards straight. Up on the heels if your balance is good. Breathe in, breathe out. Float the hands all the way back to the mat, back into our lunge. Breathe in, breathe out. Step the right leg back, downward facing dog. Take a breath here. And then breathing into the sole of your right foot as you release the left leg up, three-legged dog. Breathing in, drawing the left knee up to your chest, come up onto your right toes, step the left foot forward. So crescent pose on this side. So your choice with that back foot, drop it down or keep it on the toes. Whichever one you're doing, take a breath in and engage your tummy muscles. Keep your focus forward as you sweep the hands and keep the gaze between the hands, just gently lifting the head with the hands. So keep your balance. And as you reach to the ceiling in crescent pose, maybe you can add a little back bend. And then breathing in, breathing out. So that gives us a lovely stretch at the front of the leg that's behind us. Take your hands back to the mat and then step left leg back. Release the knees to the mat, take them wide, sink back, child's pose. Just take a breath here and let everything settle. Breathing into your hips. Do they feel as though they've been worked a little bit today? We haven't quite finished. So just take another deep breath here. And then bring yourself up into all fours position. So we're going to come into pigeon pose. So plant your hands under your shoulders, knees under hips. Take a breath in. Engage the tummy muscles as you lift up into downward facing dog. Releasing the heels towards the mat, release the head through the arms. And then breathing in, draw the right knee up towards your chest and then place it down on the mat. So the right knee goes behind the right wrist and the left foot, you're encouraging it over towards the left wrist. And then just walk the back foot inching it back down the mat until you can release your knee and your lower leg. And this might be it. And if it feels too much on your hip, then you can take the left ankle and draw it back so that it's more in line with the right knee. It's your choice. So if you want to extend it, just come up onto your fingertips and lift the chest, squeeze the shoulders together, proud pigeons. So getting into the lower back here, hinging into the hips, breathing into pigeon. Just hold a few breaths here. And then from this pose, just release forward a little bit. So take your hands forward. So your right hip, excuse me, is away from the mat. So drop the right hip down onto the mat and sweep the left leg out to the side, all the way in front of you, and wrap it around so that it comes over the right. Yeah, this is the left leg. I did say left leg to you, didn't I? Sweep the left leg around and it wraps around the right. So we're coming into our seated twist position here. So maybe the left hip has come away from the mat. So try and encourage it down. Take your right elbow and cut the left knee. Sweep the left hand all the way around behind you and turn gaze over the left shoulder, encouraging that left hip towards the mat. Lovely seated twist. Lords of the Fishes, Matsyendrasana. And then breathing back to center. So uncurl this left leg, take it behind you, come back to an all fours position. Toes into the mat, taking a breath in, lift the knees and the hips and walk your feet all the way back to the hands. Just finding Uttanasana, forward fold. Drop the head towards the mat. And then breathing in as you come up onto your fingertips. Plant the hands back on the mat, step the knees back into all fours. So we're going to do the other side. So take a breath in. As you breathe out, lift your hips, come to downward facing dog. Find this down dog, dropping the head through the arms, ears in line with the inner arms, hips up to the ceiling. Just noticing, feel a little bit more fluid. And then take a breath in as you draw the left knee up to your chest. And as you breathe out, place the left knee behind the left wrist. Left knee goes, and left foot goes towards the right wrist. And then we're walking the right foot back behind us. Releasing that leg down towards the mat. Coming into our pigeon pose. So staying here or coming up onto our fingertips and lifting our chest, gazing forward. Feel the shoulder blades sliding together and down the spine. And just breathe. Sit, well done. Take a few breaths here. So pigeon feels really not nice for you. There's lots of options. You can slide a block under that left hip to give you a bit more support. You can release forward, so you're not getting into the lower back so much. Or you can just do the Supta Kapottanasana that we did at the beginning when you lie on the mat and you release the legs. So lots of options to get into pigeon pose. And then release the hands and rest the left hip down onto the mat. Sweep the right leg all the way around in front of you and plant the right foot on the floor on the other side of the left leg. Do you see what I'm doing here? It's an easy way to sweep into the seated twist. So sitting up straight and tall, cup the right knee with the left elbow, and then sweep the right hand all the way around behind you. Use it as a prop as you look over the right shoulder. Lords of the Fishes. And then breathing yourself back to center. Release the right leg and release both legs out in front of you. Come to Dandasana. So we've just got one more final stretch before we come down to the mat. So just sitting up straight in Dandasana. First of all, just encouraging that L shape, pressing the backs of the legs into the mat. The heels will lift just very slightly. Relax the shoulders. And then take your legs out into a wide position. Yeah, see me? So as wide as is comfortable for you, sitting up straight and tall. And then draw the right sole of the foot to the inside of the left leg. So as Janu Sirsasana, but with a little bit of a variation. So the left inner thigh is touching the right sole of the foot. Take a breath in. And as you breathe out, float this right hand up and drop it down behind the head. So it's dropping down, fingertips towards the upper back, elbow up alongside the ears, as if you were going to do Gomukhanasanā arms. And then sitting up straight and tall, as you breathe out, just float the left hand out along the left leg, maybe to the knees. Keeping that elbow pointing up to the ceiling, turning and gazing to the right elbow. So helping to get the chest opener here. And a nice stretch in the right side of the body. And each time you breathe out, maybe you can dip a little bit nearer to the left leg. And then breathing in, bring yourself back upright. Breathe out and release. So swap your legs, right leg goes out, left leg comes in, sole of the left foot tucks into the right inner thigh. Sit up straight and tall. Take a breath in. Breathe in this left arm up and then drop it down behind the head. So this is the challenge, to try and keep this elbow up and try not to drop your chin down. So holding yourself up, breathe in. As you breathe out, slide the right hand out along that foot. Maybe it will catch hold of the toes. Keep that left elbow lifted, turning and gazing to the left elbow. So always feels a bit odd when you first do something like this. The body goes into a little bit of a panic. So breathe and release that panic. As you breathe out, you might go a little bit further. And it thinks that's not so bad after all. And then breathing in, come back to center, release the hands, release the legs. Well done. So just come back to semi-supine. Just ease out through the hips just for a moment. So come to semi-supine, hands out in a T shape, and drop your knees side to side, windscreen wiper through the knees and the backs of the hips. Just noticing how they are feeling. And then we're going to come to the mat for just a few moments of relaxation. But we're going to start in Baddha Konasana. So if you want to grab your layers and then bring yourself back to the mat into semi-supine. So come down to the mat. Semi-supine to start with. Just release the hands so that the backs of the hands are resting on the mat in a gentle V. The knees and the soles of the feet are together. And you're going to gently lower the knees out to the side. Soles of the feet are touching. So you choose the distance between your heels and your hips. And just notice how this feels compared to where we were at the beginning. Did it feel as though you just allowed those knees to gently drop towards the mat? And check in with the lower back. Is it resting on the mat? Can you feel the whole of the sacrum area connecting with the mat? All of those little muscles and ligaments have been stretched. And everything is releasing a little bit easier. I hope you're feeling the same. So just breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Just allowing everything to release down into the mat. Start with our lower back. One of the key areas that's supporting us on the mat at the moment. Making sure that that is gently lowering and releasing towards the mat with each out breath. And as you breathe out and release that area, you feel your inner groins start to release and the knees will drop a little wider. And you can feel the soles of your feet touching. There's no real tension there. They're not pressing tightly into each other. They're just supporting each other. And then working up your spine, allowing it to release to the mat. all the way up to your shoulders. Just let go. Feel the upper arms release, the elbows, the lower arms, the backs of the hands. Just melting down into the mat. And then take your attention to the back of the head. Just check in that your nose is in line with your belly button. And you're resting on the back of the head, not tilting the chin. Just allow all those areas that are connecting to the mat to release and let go. Let's take a few breaths here. We're just going to stay here for 1 more minute. So if it feels better for you to slide your legs out along the mat, come into Shavasana. And just release for a moment. So if you're still in Baddha Konasana, just allow your legs to slide out along the mat into Shavasana. And then start to bring some movement back into the body. Wiggling your fingers and your toes. Rotating through your wrists and your ankles. And then take a deep breath in, float your hands up and overhead and do a full body stretch. Point from your fingertips to your toes, lengthening out along the mat. And then breathing in, bending your knees, plant your feet on the floor. And as you breathe out, roll onto your right hand side. Just draw your knees a little closer to your hips. And then when you're ready, bring yourself back up to a seated position. Everyone feeling okay? Good. So we'll finish with our 3 breaths together. So sitting up straight and tall, fingertips to the mat. Breathing in, reaching up and overhead. Breathing out, hands to the heart center. Breathing in. Breathing out. Breathing in. And breathing out. Namaste. Thank you, everyone. And happy Easter.